Welcome to the FCO show for catchers only, a show for, by, and all about catchers. Presented by Catch Tech USA, I'm your host, E. Will IV. Today, we go behind the mask to learn what being consistent is all about. This man put in the work over a 9-year period in the minor leagues before getting his shot in the big leagues with the Boston Red Sox. And when he got his chance, he entered the league in grand fashion. Introducing former Boston Red Sox catcher Creighton Gubanich. How you doing, brother?
Well, doing well. A little nervous. You know, this is a little harder than playing in Fenway in front of 40,000 fans.
Oh, see, now that's the kind of stories I'm gonna need to hear because I mean, you live the dream, brother. That's what we all wanted to hear. So we're gonna get into all that, and it'll be a good time. We'll see how long we might end up going over the limit. So we'll get it going, man. So now, speaking of that, let's start this thing off right. I don't know if you realize how deeply you can impact people as a coach. Because I haven't spoken to you in almost 20 years, right? Not even sure if you remembered me being one of your students when I was in college. I used to drive from Baltimore to Philly, the Philly area every week just to get a lesson from you. And man, you taught me one of those key terms. I don't know if you made it up or somebody taught you. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I had to go back and think about it, so it's tough because after playing 14 years professional baseball, you run across a lot of different people and a lot of different names. So when you're like, hey, Eddie Williams, I'm going, oh, that Eddie Williams that I played with,
and the last name is Wilson. See,
and I'm going, wait a second, Eddie Williams, Eddie Wilson. I'm like, here
we go.
I'm like, oh my God, who the hell am I talking to?
Yeah.
At some level. And then as soon as you said we did lessons and then Andre Duffy and I go, oh, there we go. Right. I remember him coming up every now and then.
Yep. Me, DJ used to go with me, and Duffy would meet us in there and take some hacks. And Goose is my guy, man. Goose Bob Gilday is the man who gave me the shot and connected me with everybody, you guys and in the Atlantic League. And that's kind of how I got my start, on a much smaller level than you, of course. But I'm excited, man, because, I'm from the East Coast. I'm in Texas now, but always got a soft spot in the heart for the East Coast players because we come up a little different, man, with the weather being different out there. We don't get a chance to play as much baseball as some of the other guys, in different areas. So we'll get into all that. And that concept you taught me, never forgot it. I'm 41. I've been developing ball players for 10 years, and all of them know what the quarter turn is. All of them. And I call it, hey, Creighton Gubanich taught me this, man. And they've never even seen you yet. But I mean, I don't know if you realize how much that impacted. Just a simple little term. I never forgot it, man.
Some of those things, like from playing 14 years, I was, in terms of baseball player, I was an average professional baseball player in terms of my athletic ability. I had the ability to hit. I could throw guys out. Wasn't the best receiver, wasn't the best blocker, wasn't the best athletic catcher behind the plate, but I drove in more runs than I let up.
There you go.
That kept me around, a lot longer than some of the other guys. But just learning some of those things, like playing the game, you kind of did a lot of those things naturally.
Yeah.
And you didn't even think about it. And then once you get out of the game and you get into the business of teaching kids, you really had to start to peel back and go, well, how do I get this across? What am I doing? And how can I explain this to somebody? And then I would just sit there and figure out, like, okay, well, how am I getting to where I need to be? How do I get my feet in this position here and go, all right, well, how do I explain this now to somebody to work on if I'm running a catching clinic, talking to kids about their footwork, throwing the ball to second base, that is just like to spin and their weight transfer goes all towards third base or shortstop. And then their compensation has to be with the wrist angle, and then the ball fades back into the second baseman up the line. And then your shortstop and second baseman are getting killed.
Right.
So I had to go back and try to think. I'm like, who was the one that taught me the quarter turn? And I believe it was Dewey Colburn.
Okay.
His first name was Craig Colburn. He was with the Padres organization. So it was really about in 98 when I was with the Padres organization. He was the hitting coach. I had Jerry Royster who was my manager.
Yep.
And I had Dave Smith, who was the pitching coach, and Craig was the hitting coach.
Okay.
And I think that's where I got it from ultimately, so that's where the whole quarter turn came into play. At that point,
Okay.
Because typically they just say, get the ball in your hand and when you grab it, it goes down there. And they're like, no, you got to get a good grip.
Yep. So, yes, sir. And, it's almost like a magic trick. I have, what I'll do is I'll have players close their eyes and, hold their hand the way you taught me. And every single time they do that quarter turn, they catch seams, man. They can't believe it. It's like I'm a magician, and I got it from you.
It's funny how when you get it in the hand, and you get that, and you get the middle finger going away from you, and you're pulling the thumb down, that little spin. And the key is knowing that when you grab the ball, and if you've grabbed it a million times, you know how far you have to spin the ball in a split second. Right. You know what it feels like in your hand, and it may be a quarter turn that time. It may not be any turn, depending on how it gets into your hand. But you only have the time that you drop that ball off into your hand and your front foot hits the ground to get that grip, and it's time to go forward.
Yes, sir. Yes,
you
sir.
You really only have a split second for it, which is, when you really start to think about it, you peel it all back and go, that ain't a whole lot of time. Holy smokes. How the hell could you do that?
It's got to happen automatic, man. It's got to happen automatic. So, yes, sir. Okay, good deal. So, okay, we're in a situation where you have the opportunity to live a dream that a lot of us have. This is every single ball player in the world that comes up as a kid and dreams about stepping foot on that big league stage. So if it's okay with you, I want to go behind the scenes a little bit, just to talk about how you even got to the point to get there, and just the experiences that you had. So now you're Jersey guy, right?
I was born in Jersey. At the age of 6 months, we moved back to a small town where I'm at now, Phoenixville.
Okay.
Grew up in Phoenixville, which is about 35 miles west of Philadelphia.
Okay, got it. Okay, so East Coast, and one of the main things that we talk about is, I'm in Texas now. One of the reasons why I moved to Texas is to give my son a different opportunity to come up in the amateurs, because in Baltimore, we only get like a season maybe, and that's about it weather wise. And I know some things have changed technology wise around your area as far as the indoor facilities, man. There's been some big improvements, but what was it like playing ball as a youth, in that area, just coming up weather wise? How many seasons did you get a chance to get into? Did you play travel ball? What was it like coming up when you came up?
So I'm 51, so I'm 10 years older than you. My athleticism came from playing 4 sports. Okay. I went from football season turned into swim season and basketball season, which turned into baseball. Okay. Yes, so I was a 4-sport athlete. I started at the age of 4 swimming. I remember watching, I believe it was Evel Knievel, who decided to try to jump over the Snake River, I believe, in a rocket, and almost killed himself. And they showed all the things of him jumping all these trucks and things and stuff. I'm like, that's kind of cool. So the next day I went out, 4 years old, I was riding my bike down the street.
Yeah.
And I saw a car decide that they're going to drive up the road. Now I live on a one-way street, cars parked on both sides. And I decided, I said, you know what? If Evel Knievel can do this, so can I. I darted in between 2 parked cars. Okay. Tried to beat the car going across the street.
Oh.
Well, 16-year-old driver who just got her license like 3 days before smoked me, smashed my femur.
Oh, no. And how old were you?
I was 4.
Oh, my goodness.
So she hit me and smashed my femur in 3 different places. I was in what they call traction. So I was in hospital bed with my leg up, suspended in the air for 30 days. I couldn't do anything. So they had to let the bones kind of like grow back together. Then they put me in a full body cast, which meant I had a cast that went just below my belly button, had my privates open so that I can go 1 and 2.
Yeah, use a belly, right.
And I had a bar and it was stuck in between my thighs, and I was spread eagle for 6 weeks after that. So the doctors, like, as soon as we got out of it, they're like, hey, well, we want to do some rehab, do whatever. What's the best thing? They're like, swimming is the best thing. So at the age of 4, my mom took me and threw me in a pool. And I started swimming after that. So that's what happened for me in terms of like all the different sports growing up. I did not have travel baseball when I was there. Okay.
Just being an athlete. And you're the second catcher that has mentioned swimming. And I wonder if that has anything to do with helping with mobility, because I know swimming stretches the muscles out a little bit and it helps you be a bit more athletic and just able to move around.
I was tall and skinny. I hit a growth spurt. I was about 6 foot when I was 12, but I was also about 120 pounds. I was a beanpole. If I could pull up some swimming pictures, you'd be like, wait a second, that's you? I'm like, yeah, right now I'm sitting at 300. Okay. Yeah. I hide it well. People was like, man, what are you, 250, 260? I go, yeah, I'm 300, but thank you.
Yeah. So there you go.
Big boned. I got that catcher butt.
There you go. So, there you go. All from the waist down.
Yeah. Yes, so in terms of the baseball, you asked about a little bit about travel baseball. So a little bit about what I did. So at the age of 15, I stopped swimming. I got tired of watching the black line. Okay. It was my mother's sport. Every other sport that I played, as far as football, the basketball, and the baseball, was really more of my dad's sport.
Yeah.
And it was a very tough decision when I came at 15. I said, Mom, I'm done swimming. Well, I think to this day, she's 77, 78. Maybe she's 81. I don't even know how old she is right now. Yeah. I believe she still holds a grudge that I quit her sport. And then eventually I got to basketball, and I'm like, all right, listen, I can rebound a little bit. I can't jump. I don't have a jump shot, and I sure as hell can't dribble. I'm going to have to give this up at 16. So I focused on football and baseball. Yeah. All the way through until basically up until my senior year, I played both. Okay. In terms of how things kind of got started in terms of like the recruiting.
You know what? We're going to get to that. I got a couple questions for you, though, about you coming up in the high school. Like, now, number one, have you always been a catcher on that baseball field? Was that your first love?
I started about 7 behind the plate.
Okay.
Obviously, being one of the most athletic kids, catcher, shortstop, pitcher. Yeah. I did basically, I pitched. I basically caught, for the most part, from like 13, 14, 15 on.
Okay, gotcha. Now, even at that age, young age, did you always know you were going to the big leagues? Like, was that a dream early on, or did it have to click for you at a certain age?
I believe it was more 15 or 16. I remember watching the Phillies on TV, and they had a close-up of Mike Schmidt, who was sitting on the bench. Yeah. And for whatever reason, he was chewing sunflower seeds. Yeah. And he was spitting the sunflower seeds out of his mouth. And I can remember seeing that and going, I want to do that. Yeah. That's cool. I'm like,
sunflower seeds, just that. That was it.
Spitting sunflower seeds out. Mike Schmidt, I'm going, all right, that's kind of what I wanted to do.
There you go.
And, so I knew at that point, like, all right, I had to give up sports because I had to focus. I love playing football. It was one of those things in the wintertime because you didn't have baseball facilities.
Right. Indoor.
Like 1985. Right. You really didn't have it. We had the closest thing that we had was something called Grand Slam USA, which is more of an entertainment sports. Like they did the jump around, you did the basketballs, you had the arcade, and it was pitching machines.
Yeah, we had one in Maryland. It was the same thing. Bill Greenwell ran it out there in Maryland. Same thing, Grand Slam USA. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so it was. Yeah, that was the extent of what you had in terms of any type of training.
Okay. Now, so really did you get out there? Did you get out there in long toss in the snow?
I didn't do anything. It was football season.
Right. Gotcha.
I went from football, and then basically you started like kind of towards my. We had a junior high system, so we were 7th, 8th, and 9th. Right. So I was in 9th grade, which typically most guys would be freshmen. So our high school, senior high school, was 10, 11, and 12. So we were separated. Yeah. So it wasn't until basically 10th grade where I was able to start to really be around the high school kids, the older kids. And, I like to hit. I could always hit. So I would always spend a lot of time hitting. Yeah. I did have one mentor at the time. His name was Jim Wojcik. Mm-hmm. Okay. He played when there was like triple Z ball. You had like 26 different levels.
Yeah.
And he was a catcher as well. He's like, I think he played like it was D ball, then C ball, A, B, A. And then he had to go double A, triple A. It was like 12 different levels.
Right.
So he played a little bit of professional baseball at the minor league level. He gave me some insight on some catching stuff. Okay. And I primarily worked on throwing the ball to second base. And I definitely worked on hitting.
Well, now on the catching side, because, these days, man, it's so much different than when you came up as far as the receiving, the techniques. I mean, these catchers, man, they're magicians now. I mean, they manipulate the baseball and do all types of things with the receiving stuff. But back then, what was one of the main things that he taught you about receiving? As far as like, what was the big ticket that he had you work on? That your mentor there.
Just being soft with the ball. The old type of catching was, catch the ball, bring the ball back into the center of your body, try to catch it in the center of your, in the center of your chest. Mm-hmm. So when we get to the four catchers of Rushmore, I'm going to throw a name out there and you'll be like, who? Yeah. I'll be like, this is one of the guys that I always looked up to. And like, all right.
Yeah, there we go.
I tried to do.
All right.
But as a high school player, like, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't block the ball. I was able, because I played shortstop, I was able to pick the ball in the dirt. Like it was nothing.
You had good hands.
You're also playing in the Northeast, where I think the hardest fastball that I saw at some point was like 83 or 84 miles an hour. Yeah. You didn't have guys that were throwing 96, 97.
Yep.
Being nasty. I go, all right, this is like fielding a ground ball. I was able to pick the ball.
Yes.
So
yes, sir.
That was one of the things that was a drawback for me, because I didn't block the ball early. Yeah. I never learned on how to block the ball. Yeah. I just picked.
So now you mentioned, you did decent as far as throwing guys out. Did you have a cannon? Like, was that one of your attributes that, you had a strong arm and you were able
I had a very strong arm.
Yeah.
And I just went hunting with a guy that was on our rival school. Mm-hmm. Okay. And we talk about it all the time. There's two guys that we went with. And back in my senior year, stupid things that you do, right? I had the sticky letters and I spelled it out and said, "Try me" on the side of my finger.
Oh,
right.
Try me.
Dude,
and that's a t-shirt. We got to make a t-shirt. Try me. That is it.
And they all bring it up. They're like, I remember when you had "try me" on the side of your shin guards. And every time we would try to go, you would throw us out by 15 feet.
Oh,
and I'm like,
that might be the biggest flex I've ever heard in my life.
As a senior,
that's big time.
Like, I wore number 14. 14 was my number until I got to my senior year. Then they got new uniforms.
Yeah.
Same uniform, same everything, but they went from like numbers 15 to higher. Yeah. So I had to get 28 because it was a multiple of 14.
Sure.
So on my spikes, I had 14x2.
Okay.
So it would equal 28. Yeah. But I had something there with 14. Oh, they used to rib me all the time. I go, well, you can rib me all you want. I just threw you out again.
Yep. So, there you go. You got to get the stare down afterwards. After you throw them out, you got to get a stare down.
I kind of remember, and the worst part about it was I was dating a girl, who was from the rival school.
Yeah.
So I was kind of friends with the guys because I was dating her.
Right.
Unfortunately, fortunately, I should say, she lives in Corpus Christi now.
Really?
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. You know that, right? You do know.
No, I don't know you're in Corpus Christi.
I'm in Corpus Christi right now. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, she supposedly is getting divorced, I think.
They're really
now, and supposed to be moving back to this area.
Okay. Yeah. Corpus Christi. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Now with the throwing, I don't know, like, then did they rate like pop times? You know how, they'll rate the pop time and they'll say, hey, you get below, a sub 2.0. You start
2.0 was always the mark.
Okay. 2.0 was the mark.
Yep.
Gotcha.
In terms of what I threw, I really don't know. I can kind of give you an idea like later on of what I was, but when
all the metrics and stuff,
when the whole recruiting stuff came along, right, and how it all started, because I had no idea how good I was or whatever it was. So we played high school baseball, and then in our area was Legion baseball.
Yep.
So I did that. So the high school coach also coached Legion.
Right.
I got a call in my junior year, from a guy from Bergen County, New York. His name was Steve Bort.
Yep.
Okay. He was with the Bergen County All-Stars. He called me, New York accent. Hey, my name's Steve Bort. I want you to come play for me. It's an all-star team. We're going to go to the Cabo World Series out in Euclid, Ohio. I'm like, who are you? Like, what is, like, what are you talking about? What's Cabo World Series? Oh, there's a tournament that's out there. It's like 10 games long, blah, blah, blah. We'll go out there. If you get out there, I guarantee I can get you a college scholarship. I'm like,
oh, now you got my attention.
I'm like, come on now. Like, what are we talking about?
You're right.
And it was during the summertime in which I had to leave the Legion team. For this thing.
For that. Yep.
For the whole, it was like 10 days long, like 10 games. And I talked to my parents, like, all right, well, we'll go. Let's find out what this is all about.
Yeah.
I had to first make the team.
Yep.
Okay. I was struggling. I was in a slump. I couldn't hit. I had to go up for a tryout up in New York. Okay. I think it was Abraham Lincoln High School or John F. Kennedy High School, something like that. And I'm getting these guys and you know, being up there in the Bronx in that area, there's a lot of Latin ball players, Latin kids.
Manny Ramirez, all them guys.
And, you know, you're getting out there and you're like, okay, well, who's this guy? And it was some crazy stuff. So they're showing up in shorts, for a tryout. And then they're going to go take ground balls and they're going to do stuff. They would put the athletic supporter over top of their shorts and take ground balls at shortstop and then take it off so they can run and stuff. I'm like,
wow,
what is going on here? Like, when I'm wearing my cup, I'm wearing it underneath my pants.
That's right.
You know? And it was the first time there where you did a major league style tryout. I ran the 60.
What was the time? Give it up.
I ran a 6'9".
You ran a 6'9"? Wow.
Yeah. Well, I graduated high school at 190 pounds.
Well, okay. I was getting ready to ask what gives because, man, that's good.
But my playing weight when I eventually got really into pro ball after lifting, I was 245.
There we go. They fed you. They gave you something to eat.
Then that 6'9" went to 7'9".
Yeah.
But
that's all right.
My
just
job
hit the
was
ball.
to hit doubles and home runs.
That's right. Drive some runs and let the little guys do the running, man. You don't do the running. Let them do the running.
So that was like the first initiation into like a tryout, like a showcase. Okay. And then we would take ground balls. I took ground balls at third. I did my catching stuff, threw the ball to second base, took batting practice. I hit a couple balls out to center field, which was like 50 feet over a fence. And they were all just like, what?
Yeah, that's different.
Who was that?
Yeah. I mean, you sneak a couple out the left field because you turn on something. Okay. Yeah. But you start going dead center and oppo. Well, now we're different. That's a little different.
I was a dead pull hitter, but I remember I hit a ball to center field and everyone was just like, oh, wow.
That's where the big boys play.
I'm like, what? I'm like, I do this all the time. Like, I think my senior year in high school, I think I hit 22 home runs.
Whoa.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah. So, and our field didn't even have a fence in left field.
Okay.
So,
okay. Well, you ran a 6'9", so I mean that ain't gonna be no problem, even if it don't have a fence, right?
Yeah, but they used to play me all the way down. So we played on the back side of our football field. Okay. And that was the practice football field with no fence in left field. They would go play all the way down by the goalposts at the other end of the stadium, which is 375 feet to left field. And they would sit there. If I hit one in the air, they would just catch it.
Right. Right. Yeah. You get
it wasn't until my senior year where they put a fence up basically from center field to left field.
And numbers went crazy, man.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay. So now I can get a couple more home runs now.
So, okay. So, hey, we're hitting home runs now. You got the strong arm. How's it working as far like, were you ever recruited to go to college or was it just pro for the draft? I mean, what does that look like? That's
where everything started. So the first true tournament, was when I went to this Cabo World Series. So I played for this team. We had, of the 16 kids, I think 14 of us got drafted.
Oh, wow.
So it was unbelievable. We had guys like A-Rod's played for the team, I believe. Jeffrey Hammonds played for the team.
Yes, sir.
There's a lot of guys. We had guys that came from all over. South Carolina, I remember Dino Filzo. This kid was the fastest kid I've ever seen run. Okay.
Wow.
And some of these other guys, Silvio Sensali, who pitched with the Phillies organization, like we all got drafted, whether it was in high school or even afterwards after college. So I went out and I played third base. They had 2 other catchers. I played third base. I think I hit like 575. I was the MVP of the tournament.
Yeah.
And our best hitter of the tournament. Then somebody else got, somebody else who was a catcher from somewhere out there who I believe went to Mississippi State or somewhere else, ended up, getting like the MVP of the tournament or something. Like that. So when it was all said and done, I think I hit like 5 or 6 home runs, a whole bunch of RBIs and stuff.
In 10 games?
Yeah.
Oh man, you're on cloud 9. I mean,
so
you're just ripping.
But I was playing baseball. I had no idea what was going on. I just played. I didn't know who was there. Were there scouts there? We didn't know anything about it.
That's probably the best thing. You were able to relax and just play baseball instead of putting pressure on yourself trying to do too much. Yeah,
I was oblivious as to who was out there.
Right.
It wasn't until my senior year of high school when it started. And then we started getting phone calls, and the coaches are, Doc Kennedy's going, hey, we have, this guy's coming, this guy's coming. Eventually what happened was the recruitment process started to happen. And it wasn't until my junior year when all this stuff happened? It probably was, because that's when the recruiting started to happen. Then it was ODU's calling, Virginia's calling. Smaller schools, Kutztown, some of the schools around here, and then it became, Texas A&M.
Yes,
and then it's like, ooh, Texas A&M. What do we got?
Yeah,
trip down to College Station.
Yep.
Went down there, went to the Dixie Chicken, met a guy by the name of Trey Witt, who I eventually faced with the Mariners organization.
Okay.
Talked about the Dixie Chicken being out because he was like my mentor. He was the one that was like walking me around town.
Okay, got you. That's out in College Station.
That's out in College Station.
Okay,
yep.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know they were probably going after you pretty hard, and that's amazing how one tournament and you light it up. See, that's the thing. So a lot of people think that you just go to all these tournaments, you don't have to perform, you just show up and something happens. It's like, no, you actually gotta. You got to play. You got to give them something to look at, right?
You got to show them that you can do something. So,
but that's an important point that you made as far as not knowing what was going on, and you were just free to play. I know my first year playing in the Atlantic League, Stephen Drew was on our team. This is right when they were starting to do that whole deal where they could hold out before the next year of the draft come up. And so they would just go play independent ball and wait for them to get the money.
So I believe didn't Veritech do the same thing?
I don't know about Veritech. I know his brother. I know JD did the same thing.
Okay, it was JD.
And we had Jared Weaver also on that squad. And they ended up getting signed right before that next year's draft. But one thing he told me, we were in the
Atlantic League.
What'd you say?
Who were you with the Atlantic League?
Camden River Sharks, man. Yes, sir.
Did you have who was the manager?
It starts with a W. Don't get me to messing this up.
He passed away a little while ago.
Did he?
Yes.
No way. Man.
Oh my God. What's
his last name? I want to say Warchek, or I'm gonna find it before we're
gonna find it.
We'll find it. We'll find that name.
He was with the Brewers organization earlier, I believe. Yeah.
Yep. But I remember Stephen Drew, we were in the batting cages and we were hitting, and I was just asking him, like, man, because I'm, he's way higher level than I was. I went to, a school where we didn't get a lot of looks, and, Gooses would help me out after I did well in spring training, then that's how I got that deal there. But I remember him saying one thing. He said, Eddie, look, the day you stop playing this game like a kid, that's the day you're going to have trouble. He's like, I don't care what stage you're on, play it like you're in the backyard. And kind of like you just said, when you played in that tournament and you lit it up, you didn't know that other guys are supposed to be good. You're just having a good time playing the game. You know,
we lost to Puerto Rico in the championship.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
I
lighten it up
4-3. I'm like, oof, they were good.
Yeah. But hey, y'all were right there with them. So now, okay. So you start to hit the scene. The recruiting is starting to happen, and we get to 1990. Now, did you go to college or were you drafted out of high school?
I got drafted out of high school. As soon as the high school season started, my senior year, I had already committed. I had committed to Texas A&M.
Okay.
I had an 80% scholarship, I believe, 85%.
Yeah.
Just after, ultimately, at some level, right before I committed, Mississippi State called. And I'm like, well, are you going to give me one of my 5 senior trips?
Right.
They're like, no. He goes, you come down on your own, you'll understand, and then you'll pick us. I go, screw that. I'm going to Texas A&M. Thank you. I'm coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it was like right after the College World Series, LSU had won. That, I guess they played on a Sunday. That Monday afterwards, I got a call from LSU. And I'm like, I just verbally committed like 2 or 3 days ago to Texas A&M.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, damn. So, I mean,
now,
that would have been,
you could have switched
the one.
Right. Now, you know how nowadays you can just flip. You can verbally commit, decommit, go to. Was it like that then too, or?
Yeah, I think so, but it was a little bit more frowned upon.
Okay.
To do that.
Gotcha. Okay.
So,
all right.
Cool with it. But yeah, getting into my senior years when the professional scouts were coming out. Because then it turned out that I was getting 10, 12, 14, 16 pro scouts, radar guns, stopwatches, and we would take infield before the game. And I'd just be like, throw the ball to second base, throw it around, do whatever. And they were like, hey, I need you to throw the ball to second base. After pop time, I go, I'm like, why? I'm like, my arm is killing me. Right. You're playing 3 games a week. You're, all the balls you're throwing. I'm still pitching a little bit too. I'm going, my arm's killing me, doc. Like I don't want to throw the ball to second base. And, I think the most we ever had at one of the games for recruiting was about 16 scouts.
Wow. All there to see you.
Oh, yes.
Man, that's big time.
Luckily, something that helped me out was Mike Piazza graduated from Phoenix Hills as well.
What?
So
I didn't know that.
He was a senior when I was a freshman. So having him do what he was doing, it helped bring some scouts around.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden word started going like, well, who's this other kid? Like this guy's breaking all of Piazza's records.
There you go.
Who's that?
Yes,
so that helped out a little bit, because Mike didn't have a left field fence. So he learned how to hit the ball to right field.
Yeah.
He used to hit balls over a right field fence like it was going out of style.
Right.
I couldn't do that in high school. So I had to try to hit over their head.
Right. So, right.
Yeah, that's I think the biggest thing was 16. 16 was the most at one point. And that's where it kind of all started.
Yep.
Then the first scout that came over was Bobby Malkmus with the Cleveland Indians. Sat down and met with my parents, and they're like, listen, we're interested. If we draft you, would you be interested in signing? And we're like, what do you mean draft? Like, what do we mean?
What is it? Right.
At the time, I think they had Sandy Alomar behind the plate.
Yeah, Cleveland.
Like, why would I want to sign with you guys? Like, Sandy Alomar's there. Like, he's a stud.
Yeah.
Not realizing, like, hey, you got to work your way up to the minor leagues.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was the first guy that we talked to.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Gotcha, for Cleveland.
Yeah.
Now that ramped up. I mean, is that right when the season? I'm assuming the season starts around March for you guys over in that area.
The first Monday in March.
Okay, first Monday in March.
Yep.
So and then we do the draft. You got TV shows
was
for the draft.
June. It was the first 3 or 4 days in June.
Now you got MLB Network. They film the draft big time. Okay, cool. But back then, how did the draft work? Like take me to draft day. It's 1990. I mean, the night beforehand, do you know that you're going to get drafted? Are you pretty excited about it, or
no clue? Because the only person who really ever talked to us was Bobby Malkmus with the Indians. Okay. No one else really talked to us about anything.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, all right, well, people are saying, yeah, you might get drafted. I'm like, okay, great. I'm like, well, my dad's like, well, what do you want to do? I'm like, can I stay home? You know, he's like, yeah, well, what do you do? I go, well, let's go play golf.
There you go.
So we went out and we played 18 holes of golf.
Nice.
You know,
nice.
I don't know how many rounds they did on day one. I know back then it was still like 50 some rounds because I think Piazza was 52nd round and he was 1 or 2 years ahead of me when he got drafted because he went 2 years at Miami-Dade, I believe, then got drafted.
Okay, and then went. Okay.
Yeah, so I still had 2 more years to go, and it was like in his second year because they were trying to get him to play first base.
Yeah.
2 years into it is when I think they switched him to catcher.
And
that's when I got drafted, and then eventually decided to sign late in August. I think I had 11 days to go before I was supposed to report to school.
Well, that's what I was. Yeah. So you were prepared to go to school. You were getting ready to pack your bags and head to Texas.
Yeah. I mean, Oakland drafted me. Yep. You know, they called and like, okay, great. You know, then the negotiation started to happen. This is what we'll offer you. I'm like, I don't know. What should I do? What should I not do? You know, my parents finally left it up to me and says, you know, write the pros and cons down.
Yeah, there you go.
And I said, all right, well, I wrote everything down. I said, all right, well, what's the thing about college? I'm like, well, I have my college tuition paid for. I'm like, all right, well, I promised my parents, which I still got to uphold that end of the bargain, that I would go back to college and get my college degree. Well, I'm 51. I ain't going back to college. Right. So mom and dad, sorry, the degree's not going to happen.
Hey, you're doing all right for yourself. I'm
graduating from the University of Life.
That's right. There we go. There we go. So Oakland. Okay, Oakland drafted you. This is sixth round pick.
Yep.
Okay.
And you had no clue. How did you? The 4 aces. They had 4 first round draft picks that year. So Todd Van Poppel, Kirk Dressendorfer, Dave Zancanaro, and Donnie Peters.
Okay, gotcha. Now, were you on the golf course when you found out you were drafted?
I don't remember.
Okay, gotcha.
You know, I don't even remember whether they did how many rounds they did in the first day.
Yeah,
I think they did multiple. Like they got all the way through 10 rounds or so.
Okay,
probably on day one. So I think at some point, I did find out. I can't remember. I think I was at home at the time.
Yeah,
that's so long ago.
I got you.
I'm like, man, where was I? I know I played golf with my dad, but after that, I don't.
I got you.
At that point, you didn't have cell phones either, so you weren't getting called.
Yeah, you could wait till you get home to get that call.
we had the bag phone for the cars. That's
right. What we had. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I remember those. Now, I was going to ask you if you were nervous at all, but the answer is no, because you didn't even know that you were going to get drafted. You were prepared to go to school. I mean, it just happened for you, and I mean, that may have been a blessing in disguise. That way you're not all, worried about it and figuring out where you're going to go. So you're just kind of going with the flow. Now, from the day you got picked, how soon did you have to report to the organization? So
once I decided to sign, which was like late August, the seasons were basically over. So your short A was going to be done. It's at the time, short season would have done the first weekend, like Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
So I only had like 2 weeks. So the first thing that I did was I went to what was called Instructional League.
Yep.
So it was an 8-week camp after the season was over. Oakland brought in 60 players, 2 teams worth.
Yeah.
Of guys that were A-ball, AA, to give them some extra work and things that they needed to work on prior to the next year coming up.
Gotcha.
So that was my initiation. I came down there. It was beginning of middle of September, probably. So I was thinking I was down there for 6 weeks.
Okay.
All the way till the beginning of November.
Okay. Yeah.
That was my initiation in the pro ball.
Did they bring you in as a catcher? Because I know you said you played a little bit of third base.
I got drafted as a catcher. Yep. So my senior year, I caught every game.
Okay, gotcha.
Year, I played third base. We had a senior who did okay. Was a pretty decent athlete.
Yeah.
But we had a big hole at third base.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
I played third my junior year. Then the senior year, I went to catch.
Okay. Gotcha. So you get to, I mean, where did they send you? You said you had to report to them for the instructional
spring training complex in
Arizona.
Yeah. It was in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Okay,
so
gotcha. Scottsdale.
They had their complex was tied in with Scottsdale Community College.
Okay, yeah.
So all the way out there on one of the Indian reservations.
There you go. Now behind the plate, you get there. I mean, first day or first training session. What do they show you? What do they teach you about catching that you didn't know beforehand?
Man, blocking, bare hand catching, how to set up, how to give a sign. Like as an 18-year-old kid, you walk in there and go, oh, I know how to catch. And they go, you don't know squat.
Yeah.
Let me teach you what you got to do. So all the catchers are working with each other, whether it's the pop-ups, blocking the ball, it's the footwork for throwing, all the different little drills. Obviously, you got to catch all the bullpens too, which
yes, sir.
You can start to do, and it's like, so in terms of that, I was just very naturally able to catch.
Okay. Yeah.
So in terms of like what they taught, they didn't do a whole lot of teaching and revamping things. They basically kind of tweaked what you were doing. And then, I'm 190 pounds. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, it's time to go lift. I'm like, what you talking about?
Let's get it.
Nothing about lifting.
You're right. Yeah, man. Full-time job.
Yeah. So I remember guys like George Brito eventually he played in the big leagues. Couple guys, Greg Hensley, I think his name was. Like some of these guys that were at AA and A-ball already. And I'm like, oof, all right. These guys are a little bit bigger. They're a little bit older. I'm like, they're 25, 26. I'm like, I'm 18. I'm like, all right. Didn't have a car, so I'm relying on a couple guys to help kind of like drive me around, have to bunk up with them. There's like 4 of us in an apartment. I don't know anybody. So I shack up with 3 other older guys, sleep on the couch, and just be like, start to learn the ropes from them.
You're right.
Yes,
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The biggest initiation came from a guy by the name of Ron Plaza, Plaza. He was in charge of like the Dominican areas. Okay. Called him Leatherneck. Old guy, no hat, drive, fungo around. That's all he had. And throughout the course of the day, he had a little funky thing, and it took us a couple years to figure out what was going on. But he would sit out there and he'd put the fungo down on the ground, and he'd look up at the sun, and he'd be like, Paz, what you doing? He goes, checking the time. I go, you doing what? It's like, yeah, checking the time. Paz, what time is it? He goes, it's 2:05. And then he called one of the other coach, what time is it? 2:06. Oh, what? Come on. And he would do this. It wasn't until like 3 or 4 years later that we caught him, that he had a little watch face in his back pocket. Looked at it, put it back, and then he would do it. I go, Plaz, we got you.
Yes, sir.
Like, keep it quiet.
Right. Yeah, you got a new group coming up. You got to keep the legend growing.
The first thing, the initiation from him was you called him coach.
Yeah.
He said, hey, coach, what's up? He goes, I'm not coach. I don't call you player, do I? I'm like, no, sir. He goes, you can call me sir, but don't call me coach. Right. I don't call you player. I'm like, my bad. My bad. Go. You got the quick initiation from Ron Plaza going, don't you dare call anybody a coach.
Yes, sir. There you go. There you go.
And it's when you strike out, you run back to the dugout, right? Grady Fuson, who was the national cross-checker for them, he ended up being my first coach in short season A in Southern Oregon. He goes, somebody ran back to the dugout. And afterwards he goes, what the hell are you guys doing running back to the dugout? What are you like upset, or what are you like? Are you embarrassed? He goes, you're going to walk back because you're going to strike out a hell of a lot more times. You keep playing this game, walk back. You ain't going to run. Yeah. I go, we don't run here. That's college shit.
Right. Yeah, that's right. No, you're right. Okay. And that's what's so cool about being able to have these kind of talks, because, man, this didn't used to exist. Like, you don't get this kind of information unless you're in the pros. And, a lot of these kids that are coming up these days, I mean, they're becoming professionals earlier and earlier. They're getting lessons on a professional level at the age of 10, 11. So, you're starting to
getting the information way sooner than I got. It took me 14 years playing
to get it,
to give the information, to turn around. And 10 years ago, give it to you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Or
That's
20
right.
years ago, give it to you.
Yeah, 20 years. Yeah.
So it's like it took me 14 years to do that.
Yes, sir. And I found out that coach, Wayne Krasinski, I think I'm saying his last name right.
Krenchecki.
Krenchecki. Okay, yeah, Krenchecki. Wayne Krenchecki. Yep. That's the one that was managing at the time over the Camden River Sox in 05.
Yeah, he passed away about 10 years ago, I think.
Wayne Krenchecki. Yes, sir.
And that field's no longer there either. They tore it down.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. No, I didn't know that.
No longer there.
Wow.
Rutgers Camden took it over. And they knocked the whole thing down and just made it an AstroTurf field with just some fences.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, that was a beautiful field, man. Right underneath the bridge. And, I'll never forget it. That was my first time, getting out there. And
that was fun. The ball carried very, very well to right center.
It sure did.
But it was also 370 something to right center, too.
Right.
And it needs to be a little shorter.
Right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, okay. So we get, you're there. You got your first taste of professional baseball. And I mean, as far as your schedule, I know it had to be a daily thing. I mean, did y'all have days off? I mean, was it a 9 to 5 type job? I mean, how did that look?
You play every day. There were no days off.
Mm-hmm.
You went in and you practiced in the morning time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then you went in and you broke for lunch. And then you jumped in vans and went and played a game at 1:00 against all the other teams that were in the area.
Okay.
So you played 40 or 50 games over that course.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So
it was different because you're playing every single day.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's the grind. That's the grind right there. Now you're, I mean, we're talking about the true nature of a catcher is gritty and just consistent, man. And your career is a testament to that. I mean, representation of that, because, man, you worked for 7 years in that organization with the Oakland A's before you were moved, right? You were traded to the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yep.
97.
It was 1997. I got traded.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple things that happened. The Oakland A's, I didn't think were very forthcoming in what they actually told people in spring training. Like, hey, man, you're going to get an opportunity to play, and then you never got an opportunity.
Never got it. Did you get close to making it to the show with them at all? Like, I mean, get called up?
What I understand, in 1997, they signed a free agent called a kid by the name of Brent Maine, who spent a number of years with the the Royals organization.
Okay.
Very flexible, smaller guy, really got down low, caught a specific way.
Yeah.
And I ended up having surgery in short season A. I had a tough time with a shoulder. My shoulder kept popping out.
Yeah.
And they wanted me to try to catch like him. I had a very difficult time. I was getting handcuffed. I couldn't catch.
Yeah.
And I eventually went back to my own way.
Yeah.
Okay. At the time. So I stopped there, but I was hitting. And I was hitting like 360, 370 at AAA.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then just, I don't know exactly what happened, but I had a conversation with Pete Rickard, who was the pitching coach.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I'm like, well, what's going on? And like, I got traded or something. Like, I forget exactly how it all happened, but I'm like, he's like, wow, I think you got traded or whatever. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, well, back here earlier in the year, Billy Beane had called down, you were hitting well, and they wanted to know if you were ready to go to the big leagues. And the manager at the time, which was Gary Jones, who, again, played up in the A ball.
Yeah.
Okay. This is where we had a very bad relationship.
Yeah.
Said that he didn't think that I was ready to play at the major league level.
And you hitting 360 in AAA.
And I'm like, what? I'm like, what are you talking about, Pete? He's like, yeah. He goes, I go, I should be the one to determine whether or not I'm ready. Yeah. I'm proving it. I'm hitting 360. Yeah. I think I had like 11 or 12 home runs at the time, and I was catching fairly well after I got rid of all the stuff that I was doing. So this is about halfway through the year.
Yep.
And then eventually what happened was that there was enough stink that was made that I ended up getting traded. Now, at the time, A.J. Hinch was in the Cal League, and he had, I think, halfway through the year had like 25 home runs in a Cal league. So he was tearing it up. So they're like, well, let's trade Creighton. They brought up AJ Hinch to AAA. I then got traded to the Brewers organization.
Yep.
I don't even know for who at the time.
Yeah.
And then I was there for 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. The catcher that was there was Bobby Hughes. He was a first-round draft pick.
Okay.
Sal Bando was the GM, and Bob Melvin was like the roving catching guy.
Okay. Yeah.
So Bob Melvin was talking to me. This is like 5-6 weeks into it, like, Goops, we're trying to get you to the big leagues. We want you to come up. I'm like, well, what's going on?
What's up?
I was out playing the first rounder. I was still hitting 350 or so, playing down there, and I was throwing guys out like Terry Jones, another fast guy, like who had 85 stolen bases. Guys like, who's this Gubanich guy?
Yeah, gunning him out.
Getting around like guys, Jeff Jenkins, these guys that are in the big leagues at the time, going, yeah, man, they're getting ready to call you up. I'm going, ooh, this is great. I'm like, I got an opportunity.
Yep.
And then Sal Bando nixed it. Okay. They called up Bobby Hughes, and then I got traded to Colorado.
Yeah.
Or I finished off the Jeff Fuson trade. I was a player to be named later.
Yeah.
So I go to AAA. They also bring in a kid by the name of Mark Strittmatter, I believe. Mm-hmm. He came in and got brought in as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, because they were so short on catchers. They had everybody get hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was playing with guys like Tom Quinlan, Rene Gonzalez. We had a stacked team.
Yeah.
I got to AAA, and the hitting coach there, Tony Torsch, was like, you really don't use a lot of your lower half in your swing. I go, well, if I hit the ball 405 feet, it goes over the fence. What difference does it make?
Yeah. Right.
I said, I have something that works for me. Mm-hmm. That year in 97, it really turned my career around. 96 really turned my career around with the invention of what they call as the flat bat. Okay. Which is Jim Lefevre during the strike time came down and basically shaved off both sides of a bat.
Okay.
So it taught me how to hit the ball and let the ball travel and drive the ball the other way.
Yeah, gotcha.
My averages went from 240, 245. Now all of a sudden, 97, I'm hitting 340.
There we go.
Going, I hit off the tee every day with it. Front toss. It allowed me to let the ball travel, learn how to let it go deep, and stay through it.
Now, before the flat bat, it was your high school field with no left field fence. Yeah. So that was the time to start working on the Piazza deal. You start driving the ball opposite field.
I remember it was I hit a ball like it was AA before I got called up to AAA. So it was 96, and I was facing this guy, Pete Rickard. Mm-hmm. Okay. And he threw the ball 3/4 arm, left-handed, and the ball would sometimes cut on your hands, and sometimes he would run it away. He didn't know where the hell it was going.
Yeah.
I said, I'm tired of getting jammed. I moved off the plate. And I said, all right, well, I ain't going to get jammed.
Right.
And I started to dive into the plate.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I started hitting balls to right field.
There we go.
And then I started hitting balls to right center. Then all of a sudden, I hit my first home run to right field. I go,
there we go.
I got some power this way.
Yes, sir.
And then I still pull the ball a little bit, but I was far enough off the plate that I can get the barrel to the inside.
Yeah.
I would ultimately bait pitchers into throwing the ball on the outside part of the plate.
Yep.
Not needing to get it all the way out because they didn't think I could reach it.
Yeah. There you go.
So
there you go.
That's where I started learning at 96 how to hit the ball the other way. Mm-hmm. And then your average went from 220, 240 to 320, 340.
There you go. So, there you go. Now with the catching, you mentioned that they were showing you some different ways of catching. You were struggling with it a little bit before you got back to what you knew. Did you ever have any thumb problems far as man, as far as getting blown? I know my first year I got blown up by Todd Rizzo, man, and this is my I guess quote unquote tryout, and I'm in he's killing me. Okay. Lefty too. Yeah. Did you have any of those?
Todd Rizzo used to work for us.
Yeah, that's my guy, man. Now, again, I haven't talked to Todd since we played, and I was there, but I'll never forget that because that was my chance to make that team. And I did not, I went to Coppin State. We're in the MEAC. We're not a big time baseball school. So the fastest guy I might have caught, may have thrown in the low 90s, maybe. maybe.
Right.
And Todd comes from the left side. We're in a school gym. You know,
and
he was doing some sort of camp. and he's just
cutters.
Yeah, cutters. Man, blew my thumb up, man. I was down
he
for
was
3 weeks.
He was about 94 to 95 from the left side.
Yes, sir. And I'm like, what is this? And that first year, all I learned was how to be quiet. You know, let the ball travel, how to be quiet. So was that kind of similar to some of the things that you were having trouble with when they tried to switch you up a little bit?
The main thing is I was getting my elbow too high. Okay, it was getting parallel to the ground, which then put my thumb underneath.
Okay,
and I was getting a lot of balls. So then now all of a sudden, what we started back in the day, we started calling it dunking.
Yeah.
So you can't stop once your shoulder gets up this high. You're now trying to stop the rotation in your humerus, and you're using muscle fibers that are very, very small. You can't stop that rotation.
There you go.
So it wasn't until you were able to get the elbow down below the glove and try to catch the thumb up that you were able to stop the force of the ball a whole lot better, which also stopped you from getting thumbed.
There you go.
So
okay.
You had to learn how to get that elbow down and get the thumb up.
Yeah.
So you didn't have that blown up thumb.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Work underneath that ball for sure. Now, with all the moving around, I mean, man, you've traded, you're still hitting well, doing your thing mentally. Like, did you ever get to the point where you felt like, you know what, this may not be in the cards for me? You know, I'm doing well, but I'm not getting a fair shake at it, and I keep getting moved around. Did you ever get to that point before you got there? Mm-hmm.
I knew it was a job, so each year, you're playing. You're a free agent. You're making some extra money. Yeah. You're making anywhere from $6,000 to $8,000 a month. I'm like, that's good money.
Yeah.
So you're like, all right, man, I'm doing it. I'm just going to keep working hard, and who the hell knows what happens?
Sure. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Did I ever think it would never happen? No, I always hoped it would happen. Did I ever think it was going to happen? No, to be honest with you. Yeah. But it didn't stop me from keeping working hard. So it was like somewhere around, I think 2000, or when was it? 97 or 98. Me and my boys went to go watch the ball drop.
Okay.
For New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
And that year, I think it was 97, where I decided, you know what? I need to really start to dedicate myself a little bit more to doing something.
Thank you for tuning in to part 1 of the FCO show interview with former Major League catcher Creighton Gubanich. Please catch part 2 airing next Sunday, December 24th, 2023. And you can follow us, like, subscribe, and ring that alert bell at youtube.com/@the FCO show.